All right. It is 5:38. Let's get this party going. Hello and welcome back to the kitchen cabinet. It's been a few weeks, been busy, been doing some other community work, and I thought it was important to go ahead and share information about the ballot. Um, Kitchen cabinet is something that has been underway for a while. Yes, we're still on the Pretty Petty Politics platform. I am doing some community stuff, but um, I still thought it was important to get out here this evening, even being under the weather. I thought it was important to hop on and to discuss the 2024 sample ballot for Harris County. And if I have to do it alone, I will. If I do it and people come join, that's great. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. But it's very important to at least put this information out there. And then as people need it, it'll be shared. So I'm going to give it a few minutes for others to join us. But in the meantime, check out the comment section. There is a link to Harris Votes, which will give you access to the Harris County, Texas 2024 sample ballot. So go ahead and take a moment to check that out in the comments, and I'll be right back. All right, so I'm back. So hopefully, people will start jumping on here. I'm going to jump right into it. So early voting in Texas begins on October 21st and it ends on November 1st. That gives a full weekend of early voting to Harris County voters. It gives you an opportunity to miss a lot of the long lines. It gives it election workers and even campaign workers because they can focus on people who have yet to vote and kind of use their energy to mobilize them to the polls instead of mobilizing people who already been. So I certainly encourage you to go vote early. Again, early voting in Harris County begins October 21st, and I'm pretty sure this is true for the state of Texas, but my focus is on Harris County, Texas, where I live, Houston. So let's get right into the ballot. So, of course, everybody knows that we have a presidential election this year. And so I'm going to go over the ballot. And as I'm explaining the ballot, I'm explaining the roles, not the people. right? You make up your own mind. Maybe I'll do that on another night. Typically, what we do at Pretty Petty Politics, we have a community slate. So we have different people who work in various industries throughout Harris County. They complete a form, and they pretty much rate or select various people running for office, and we publish their suggestions. And then there are some that we actually endorse candidates, and you'll see the difference between someone who's endorsed and someone who our community slate has selected as the best choice. So let's get into it. So tonight we're just going over the ballot, what the roles are. So for president, the role of the president can be found in the U.S. Constitution under Article 2. You know, I'm always going to go to the Constitution if it's available. So under the Constitution, Article 2, you can find out about the role of the president. The president is the chief executive for our nation. They're the commander in chief. They literally have the football, so to speak. They have access to use certain weapons if necessary, or to give those orders. They sign bills into law that come through Congress, and they can also veto things that come through Congress. But when I get to Congress, I'll also tell you that Congress can override a veto. Presidents, they do push policy. They push policy. Their policies become law through congressional action. So through congressional acts, through congressional legislation, and congressional laws. They appoint all federal judges, not just Supreme Court justices. They appoint all federal judges. They appoint various cabinet members. So all the various secretaries, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Commerce, of Housing and Urban Development, you name it, they appoint those people as well. So the president does carry a lot of power. The vice president's main role is to advocate for the policies and the desires of the White House. So the policies that the president is pursuing, the vice president oftentimes is like the liaison that goes into the Congress and works the Congress along with like the chief of staffs to persuade them to adopt certain policies, to move legislation throughout the Congress, both the House of Representatives as well as through the U.S. Senate. The vice president also does engages with international leaders. So along with like the Secretary of State, the vice president may travel around the globe to work with various international leaders on whether it's on trade, whether it's on allyship, you name it. So they have a lot of power. They don't have all power. And I think that's the miscommunication a lot of people have. They think the president and vice president just have all this power, and they do have a lot of power. Do not let me play it down, because I'm not trying to. However, most of the power that we think that the president and vice president have is actually held in Congress. And that's what I'm really excited to talk to you about tonight. So the Congress is made up of two chambers. And so Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution provides that we have a House of Representatives, which is based on population, as well as the U.S. Senate, which is based on equal representation. Every state has the same number of U.S. senators. So it doesn't matter if you're in Montana or if you're in Texas, you have 2 U.S. senators. But your number of members of the House of Representatives will be totally different because it's based on population. So like Montana probably has more buffalo. Well, they certainly have more buffalo than they do representation in the House of Representatives, whereas Texas has 38 members of the House of Representatives. So I want to talk about that 38, right? So those 38 members of the House of Representatives, I will get to the Senate. And even though Senate comes before the House on the ballot, I want to talk about the House because it's so much to share. So jump right into it. So Texas has 38 U.S. House of Representative seats. So we have 38 different districts. Those districts are drawn every following every U.S. census. So we just had one in 2020. The next one will be in 2030. So according to the population and according to how our state legislature, which is also on the ballot, because this is the part. This is who you need to be focused on. Yes, we need to focus on the president, but baby, we need to focus on these legislators because they're the ones who actually make the laws and they're the ones who draw the lines to where they will be represented and where their parties will be represented. So this is the game right here. So we have 38 districts based on the population. Texas increased by 2 districts after the 2020 election, the 2020 census. So following the 2020 census, which is April of the 10th year, the 0 year. So after the census is taken, that data is looked at and we organize, or our state legislature redraws our congressional districts, whether we increase in population or if we decrease. So Texas increased by 2 new house seats. So the role of the House of Representatives, when you see that on your ballot, so if you're here in Harris County, depending on where you live, you could be in District 2, District 7, District 8, District 9, District 18, District 22, District 29, District 36, District 38. Those are the congressional districts for Harris County, those numbers I just named. And they're based on where you reside. Okay, they're based on where you reside. So, for instance, I live in Congressional District 18. Previously, I lived in Congressional District 7. I literally moved less than 4 minutes away, and nothing about my neighborhood changed except for who represents me in the Texas House of Representatives and who represents me in the U.S. House of Representatives. Nothing else changed about my neighborhood, right? Same grocery store, same post office, same zip code, same Target. You feel me? So all those things stayed the same, but based on how our state legislators, not our U.S. legislators, but our state legislators take that data from the census and how they determine how lines will be drawn and how negotiations happen and influence and politics and money get involved, you see the reshaping of our districts. Now, you probably remember this word from school, gerrymandering. That's because a lot of these districts look like salamanders or like bats. They just have these odd shapes, nothing formal and succinct about them. And some may argue that is on purpose. I'm some. But it's as much as it's to make sure certain particular parties have votes, it's also to bust, not bust like busing, but bust like hammer to a glass, to bust something open, to like disperse certain segments of our communities so that they don't have as much voting power. So nevertheless, that's another episode, but I do want to tell you that those numbers that I called, 2 is pretty much like northwest Harris County. The incumbent in that seat is Dan Crenshaw, and his challenger is Peter Filler. All right, so Dan Crenshaw is the incumbent, and Peter Filler is the challenger. Now, what I will tell you about Congressional District 2, like I told you, I'm in 18 now, and I used to be in 7. Well, when they reworked the districts following the census, prior to that, I was Congressional District 2. So 2's line dipped just below I-10 here in Houston, near inside the loop near downtown. So it dipped just a little bit around Washington Avenue. So I was in Congressional District 2. Following the redistricting because of the census, because of the population growth, and we got 2 new districts. When they redrew the maps, I went into Congressional District 7 right? And so I'm going to talk about 7 shortly. And I just explained how I got to 18 by moving 4 minutes away. But when I went from 2 to 7, I didn't move at all. My home was in the same exact location, but because of redistricting, my congressional representation changed. No complaints, just sharing how these things happen and how quick they can happen, right? So, District 7, the incumbent is Lizzie Fletcher, and her challenger is Caroline Kane. Again, Lizzie Fletcher is the incumbent. Caroline Kane is her challenger. So, this district is basically like the southern part of the Heights. So, like south of Washington Avenue, pretty much, parts of the north side of it, but Washington Avenue, down into parts of the Galleria area and going towards A-Leaf, so to speak, going like Southwest Houston, right? So it's the heart of the city, but also a lot of it is outside of the loop. It's parts of the River Oaks area, all of that. Okay. And I may be like missing some of the areas, but I do want to touch on some of them. So Congressional District 8, I'm not familiar with that at all. So I won't even play you like I am. I'm just not. But Congressional District 8 is Laura Jones and Morgan Luttrell. Morgan Luttrell and Laura Jones are the candidates for Congressional District 8. But I will tell you, even if I don't know where the district is or who the people are, I can tell you the power that they hold. And I'm going to go back to that. Next, we have Congressional District 9. Congressional District 9 is one of those very, very much so gerrymandered areas. So Congressional District 9 is Southern Houston. It reaches, and when I say Houston, I mean metro area, not just Houston absolute, because it's more outside of the city of Houston than it is inside the city of Houston in terms of land span. But there's a large portion of Houstonians who are in Houston proper who make up that about 750,000 people who are part of District 9. So let me say that most congressional districts have about 700 or so thousand people in the district. That's how they're broken up, just around 700, 750,000 people. Okay, so Congressional District 9, the only person on that in that race on the Harris County ballot is Al Green, who is also the incumbent. So it reaches over to the airport. It's some parts of like near the Beltway and Pearland and 288. Some parts of that are Al Green's district, or excuse me, District 9, because the members of Congress, yes, it's their district, but it's the people whose district that it really is, because we have to always remember that these elected people are employees of the voters. And that's a strong message that we need to remember and that we need to send. But nevertheless, Congressman Green, he represents, since he's the only one on the ballot, I'll use his name like that. Congressman Green, he represents the people in the areas of the airport, meaning Houston Hobby Airport. Some parts, it's very convoluted in this area, but some parts of Pearland, Shadow Creek area of Pearland, Missouri City, some parts of Southwest Houston, and it dips down throughout certain parts of, I would say, Southwest Harris County, Fort Bend. So it plays into 3 counties overall: Brazoria, Harris, and Fort Bend. All right. Congressional District 18. That's my new district. So I moved earlier this year. I told you I moved across the street. I moved 4 minutes away, literally. And my congressional district changed once again because now I have moved. So as I updated my voter registration, that changed. And so now I'm in Congressional District 18. So Congressional District 18 includes parts of the Heights, parts of 3rd Ward, 5th Ward, Acres Home. It dips down so into some parts of what on a map you would call Southeast Houston, but technically most people don't consider it Southeast Houston. But so it dips down low and then it goes up north, and it some of the Museum District, Midtown, and parts of what downtown. It fans out. I'll just put it this way: Congressional District 18 fans out, and it's kind of shaped like a bat or like some wings, so to speak. I know that's crazy to hear me say that, but if you pull up like the visual of the congressional district maps, you'll see what I mean. So let's talk about the ballot. So you have Lana Centonzi, the Republican candidate for Congressional District 18, and then you have Mayor Sylvester Turner, and y'all just have to forgive me because that's his name in my head. It's Mayor Sylvester Turner. So Sylvester Turner, who is running for the Democrats. So let's talk about this race. And the reason why I want to slow down and talk about this race is because in the primary, the Democrat on this ticket was the incumbent, the Honorable Sheila Jackson Lee, who passed away on July 19th. Due to her passing, right, because she won the primary to be on the general election ballot, because of her passing, the precinct chairs in her district, in Congressional District 18, they had to convene. And earlier this, I want to say this school year, but like in August, they met and they met at Wheeler Avenue Church, and they convened there and they voted on the candidates who had signed up to run for that office. So there were many of them. We talked about that in probably our previous episode. There were many people who ran for that office. Sylvester Turner was the one who won. Okay. There were 88 precinct chairs, I believe, 80 or 88 precinct chairs. And he won the majority. He won the initial vote when it was like 7 or 8 people. And then he won it when it was the runoff between he and Amanda Edwards. So Sylvester Turner is, that's why he's on the ballot and why he wasn't on the primary ballot back in March, is because the late Congresswoman won in March, but she passed away in July, sadly, to pancreatic cancer. All right, so Sylvester Turner's on the ballot. Now, that is for, because this is important to point out, that is for the 2025, 2026 2-year term, right? However, if you have Congressional District 18 on your ballot, you will also have an unexpired term for Congressional District 18. And that is because when Sheila Jackson Lee passed away, when she died back in July, she still had the remainder of the year a part of her 2023-2024 term, right? And so the candidates that are running to complete that unexpired term, they will be elected in November, should there not be a runoff, and hopefully there won't be, right? So they will run in November, and then they will serve, after that point, they will serve up until basically December 31st or January 2nd. Like they will serve the remainder of her term until the new Congress starts in the new year. So whoever wins the 2025-2026 race between Centonzi and Turner, when they become the congressional member for Congressional District 18 in January, that's when the term will end for the 3 people whose name, one of the 3 people whose names I'm about to name, right? So the 3 people running for Congressional District 18's unexpired term are Maria Dunn, a Republican, Kevin Durrell, a Republican, and Erica Lee Carter, a Democrat. Not going to be biased, but I'm going to be honest. So Erica Lee Carter is Sheila Jackson Lee's daughter. So she is running for her mother's unexpired term. And these other two candidates, which is interesting, but it's a special election. The other two candidates are Republicans who are also running for that seat. And you can only vote for one. You only can vote for one person out of these three, or you don't vote at all, depending on your choice. If you are in Congressional District 18, you choose who do you want to complete that term, and you will also be voting on who do you want for the next term out of Santosi, and I may be mispronouncing her name, and I apologize, but out of her and Mayor Turner. All right. So hopefully I've explained that well. I can't see any comments because I'm on a totally different screen. So just bear with me. I'm going to go back to that screen so I can see if you all have made any comments. No, perfect. So I can keep going. So what I'll say next is Congressional District 22. So Congressional District 22 is another one of those districts that spans across counties. Congressional District 22 is in Harris County. It's in the more southern and western parts of Harris County. And the candidates for that are incumbent Troy Nails and then attorney Marquetta Green Scott. And so this is a lot of Brazoria County, parts of Harris County, as well as a lot of Fort Bend County. That's where that district is made up of. Again, you have to remember, I know some of you are like, why so many counties in one district? The reason being is because our legislature, our state legislature, draws these new maps. They determine after each census how the congressional maps will be shaped and which communities will be in which districts. So Congressional 22, I would argue, is probably one of the most diverse districts or more diverse districts in the area. Congressional District 22 is also one of the faster growing districts in our community. So that is a race to really, truly pay attention to. Again, Congressional District 22, which includes most of Brazoria County, most of Fort Bend County, and parts of Harris County. All right. Next, we have Congressional District 29. Just think East Houston, East Harris County. So that is Alan Garza. And when I say East, I mean also like Southeast, so like down Pasadena area as well. But Alan Garza, and the incumbent is Sylvia Garcia. Next, we have Congressional District 36. That is Southeast Harris County, like deep in Southeast Harris County, over to some of our neighboring counties. I want to say Liberty County, but I could be wrong, so I won't say that. But it does go further east and that southern part. So the incumbent there is Brian Babin. So it includes like Deer Park, LaPorte, and I think parts of Pasadena. Well, I know parts of Pasadena. So parts of Pasadena that are closer to like Deer Park and LaPorte, where they kind of meet up. And I believe parts of Baytown as well. And so Brian Babin is the incumbent and Dana Steele is the challenger. Congressional District 38. I don't know the exact location of that. I want to say it's north and far west, but I'm not particularly sure, so I won't say, but you can look it up. But that is Wesley Hunt and Melissa McDonough. Right? So those are the congressional races. So let me stop there. With the congressional races, when we choose, I know everybody's focused on this presidential election. Those are the congressional races for the House of Representatives. On the flip side of that, we have another congressional race, and it's for the U.S. Senate. And that is between the incumbent, Ted Cruz, and his challenger is Congressman Colin Allred. So Allred is out of Dallas, Cruz is out of Houston. Now, with that Senate race, they will serve 6 years. We will have another Senate race in 2 years, right? But for this one, they will serve 6 years. And then in 2 years, the other senator or Senate seat will be up for re-election for another 6 years. So senators serve a 6-year term, whereas members of the House of Representatives, who we typically refer to as congressmen or congresswomen, they serve 2-year terms. So the names, all those names and districts I just named, they're going to be running every other year, right? And as they run every other year, they become household names. But it's up to you to monitor who's representing your household up there in Washington, D.C., knowing what are their policies, how do they vote on the issues that are important to you, right? Because if you have a particular person that you're looking to send to the White House, they're going to need a majority Congress, meaning they're going to need a majority in the House and the Senate, or at least one of them, if they're going to get anything done, if they're going to have a chance to get anything done. Regardless of who you choose for president, they're going to need a Congress. They can't pass laws without Congress, okay? And so it's very important for you. I know in your head you're like, President, I got to vote for this presidential election, and you do. However, it is critical that you keep in mind that you cannot stop at that first box. You got to see that thing through, right? So it's going to be critical for you to make sure that you're also voting for U.S. Senate and U.S. House of Representatives, whichever district that you're in for the U.S. House of Representatives. If you live in Texas, you have the same people on your ballot for U.S. Senate. It's either going to be Ted Cruz or Colin Allred, your choice out of the two, right? Allred or Cruz, your choice for U.S. Senate, right? The U.S. Senate has 100 members, right? Hopefully I did that 10 times. But the U.S. Senate has 100 members. In order to have a chance to make things happen in the Senate, you typically need 51 or more members of your party, right, in the Senate. Because if you only have 50, the vice president can come in because they are the Senate president and they can split the vote. So ideally, you in the Senate, a party would ideally want way more than 51, but at least 51, because now you don't have to worry about the vice president being needed to split a vote. But nevertheless, that's the Senate. In terms of the House of Representatives, they're going to make your laws. They're going to be passing those budgets. The Senate is going to be confirming the judges and the justices, those appointments, those secretaries, because this is a brand new administration. So there are going to be a lot of appointments and hearings, right? So there will be hearings and people from the Senate will be asking certain questions of these nominees for these various seats, whether it's a federal court appointment, which is a lifetime appointment. So when you vote for president, you're literally saying, I trust this person to draw out the federal courts for the next 40 years, right? Or at least 30 years. I'll give you an example. President Bush, the first Bush in the 90s, he appointed Clarence Hill to the U.S. Supreme Court. When Clarence Thompson, Lord have mercy, when Clarence Thomas was appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court, that was a lifetime appointment. That was over 30 years ago, right? Clarence Thomas is ready to retire. He had lived, he had a career already. He wasn't like 20 some years old when he got appointed, right? So when we elect a president and when we elect a Senate, we're giving them the power to determine who becomes our federal judges. But it's not just the Supreme Court judges. You know, we're looking at a lot of cases in TV and on social media where the federal government is bringing charges against people, right? Those AGs, those attorney generals, they're appointed. Those U.S. attorney generals, they are appointed. Those U.S. federal judges, they are appointed. Those U.S. appellate judges, they are appointed. They are not on your ballot in name. They're on your ballot through whoever you elect to the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. Now, again, I ain't trying to scare you, but I'm just trying to encourage you. You got to vote. You got to be informed. So this is why you can't just skip past certain offices. And this is why I'm reviewing this ballot early so that you can take the time to look into what kind of policies these people actually are about. You got time to do it because early voting doesn't start until the 21st of October, and today's the 24th of September. Will I go over this again? Will I go over it with more context? Absolutely. But right now, I just want to go over what's on the ballot. Next on the ballot, we have Railroad Commission. Railroad Commission has nothing to do with railroads. Nothing. But on our Railroad Commission, for Railroad Commission, we have 4 people running. You have Christy Craddock, Catherine Colbert, Hawk Dunlap, and Eddie Espinoza. I won't even hold you. I have not looked any of them up yet, so I have nothing to tell you yet. But when I come back to revisit this, I will go over it with you. But the Railroad Commission is not about railroads at all. Next, we have our Texas Supreme Court justices, our Texas Supreme Court justices. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now who I'm voting for and who I'm telling you to vote for, because this is my platform and I can do that. So I'm just going to be real with you. So for Justice of the Texas Supreme Court Justice Place 2, I am endorsing, I am voting for, I am supporting financially. See, because I'm not going to hide none of that from you. And because this is my platform, I can say it. I'm supporting Deshaun Jones. I believe in Judge Jones. I know his capability, his knowledge, his savvy, and I believe that he will bring fairness and balance to the Texas Supreme Court. But let me talk about the Texas Supreme Court, because a lot of people don't really understand how our courts are set up here in Texas. So the Texas Supreme Court is not the highest court in the state. We have 2 high courts. It's the highest court for civil matters and for juvenile matters. On the other side of that, we have the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. Okay, so Texas Supreme Court, Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, they are equally high. They're like dual high courts. So for instance, if someone gets, we're in Harris County, so we are the death penalty capital, right? So if someone gets charged with a capital crime here in Harris County and is convicted and sentenced to death row, they automatically get an appeal to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. All right. That is where we have criminal issues heard. However, if it's a matter of constitutionality or something civil, or again, juvenile matters, then the highest court for that in the state of Texas would be the Texas Supreme Court. Okay. And so that would be, that is where I am endorsing and happy to support Judge Deshaun Jones, who is running as the Democrat for that ticket. All right. The next one we have, there's place 4, place 6, and all of these are Harris County. Place 4, place 6, and yeah. So those are the 3. So 2, 4, 6 are up for election here in Texas. I will tell you 6 has 3 candidates, whereas place 2 and place 4 only have 2. So place 4 has John Devine and Christine Van Weens. And then place 6 has 3 people. They have a Republican, a Democrat, and a Libertarian. And so their names in that same order are Jane Bland, Bonnie Lee Goldstein, and J. David Roberson. Okay. And again, our community panel will look at these. They will look at each of these candidates, and we will have a slate in advance of voting. And then there will be endorsements as well. And I've already let the cat out the bag on one of those, and that's clearly Deshaun Jones. No shade, just keep it at 100. Plus, it's public information that I've given to his campaign. Anyway, presiding judge, Court of Criminal Appeals. All right, the presiding judge, you have David Schneck and you have Holly Taylor. Court of Criminal Appeals, place 7. So again, the Court of Criminal Appeals differs from the Supreme Court in Texas because they hear criminal matters. Now, what I want you all to do is I want you to Google or go to the state Supreme Court, the Texas Supreme Court, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, and I want you to look at who's on these courts. What do these people look like? Do they look like you? Do they look like the community that you live in? Does the makeup of the court represent the makeup of the state? And I think it's very important that because we have capable people of all parties, races, creeds, ethnicities, genders, gender choosing. There are people who are well fit to serve, and they come from a very diverse pool. So there's no reason why all of them should look one way. Besides, they all wear black robes. I think that's about the one thing that should be consistent physically is that they all wear their black robes well, right? I know that might upset some people, but I'm me and I'm protected by the blood. So let's go. Let's keep going. All right. So we've got that. We've got the Court of Criminal Appeals. You have place 7, place 8. And you also have the presiding judge for the Court of Criminal Appeals. Again, this is all of Texas, all of Harris County. Member of the State Board of Education. So you got Stacey Childs running unopposed for District 4. You have State Senate. So we have several State Senate seats in Harris County, and they are Senate. I'm going to go through the Senate district numbers, and then I will go through each race. So you have Senate District 6, Senate District 7, Senate District 15, and Senate District 17 that are on the ballot. Okay. And so 6, the incumbent is Carol Alvarado, and she's being challenged by Martha Fierro. Senate District 7 is held by Paul Bentecourt, and his challenger is Michelle Gwynn. So Paul Bentecourt is the incumbent. Michelle Gwynn is his challenger. For Senate District 15, you have Joseph Trahan and you have Molly Cook. So I want to talk about this one because for the past, I don't know, probably 30 years, if not longer, State Senate District 15 was held by the current mayor of Houston, John Whitmire. So these candidates are new to the state Senate, kind of. Molly Cook ran for this office, and if I'm not mistaken, she's filling in the remainder of the term that was left vacated after John Whitmire became mayor. So she's kind of the incumbent, but nevertheless, they're both running for State Senate District 15. Next, you have Senate District 17, Joan Huffman, and then you have Kathy Chang. All right. Now we get into, before I go to the state representatives and the state seats, the state senators, they serve 4-year terms, whereas the state representatives serve 2-year terms. And I will say this, remember I was talking about the census and who determines laws and policies about when, where we vote in the congressional districts. They also determine the legislation regarding what can be taught in your schools, right? They create legislation, they pass the legislation, they vote on legislation in regards to your reproductive rights, taxing. They vote on a budget for the state. They fund our public schools. They determine changes with certain school districts, changes in certain counties, like the state House of Representatives and the state Senate in Texas are your Texas legislators. And so legislature is literally them writing laws that impact your lives. So it's very important that you do not skip over these, that you take the time. You can visit Who Represents Me. Um, you can visit Who Represents Me to find out. And this is that website. You can go to the website ticking at the bottom, and you can put in your address, and it will populate with who represents you in these various offices. But not just that, it will also um, take you to the district so you can kind of see what they've done during their time. And I think that's important to know who your current person is. And then you can go to Ballot. Let me put this in here. You can go to Ballotopedia, like encyclopedia, but Ballotopedia, and you can look up all of these candidates. They should have information there. And you can also go to the League of Women's Voters to see their profiles, see the candidates' profiles. And typically, when you see their profiles, it'll give you a link to their website so you can learn more about them. You can look them up on social media. Again, y'all got plenty of time. Y'all got homework. Yes, adults, y'all have homework. It's called Research Before I Go Vote. And although I know some of you are going to wait till you see the pink sheets come out, yes, we will keep the pink sheets, even though we're pivoting from pretty petty politics to the kitchen cabinet. It is very important that you do your homework and not just take our word for it, or our slate of community partners, or not even partners, but just members of the community taking their input and providing it to you. That those are going to be suggestions. And then the ones in bold will be the endorsements, or the ones that have an asterisk. Those will be the endorsements, and those are our internal selections. It's great to use that, but don't only depend on that. Use some of these other sources out there. All right. So next we have our Texas House of Representatives. So we have 126. That is an unopposed race. State Representative District 126. That is Sam Harless. District 127. That is Charles Cunningham and John Lear. Congressional District 128, the incumbents, Briscoe Kane, Chuck Cruz, and Kevin Hagan. So what I can tell you about that district, that is Southeast Harris County. So like parts of Pasadena, LaPorte, Deer Park, Southeast Harris County. So the more I know about a district, the more I'll share. If I really don't know, I'm gonna keep quiet because I don't know, and there's no need to waste your time nor mine. State District 129, Dennis Paul and Doug Peterson. State House 130, Tom Oliverson and Brett Robinson. State District 131, that's Alma Allen. So that's South Harris County. State Rep District 132, Mike Schofield. And Alma Allen's running unopposed. Let me just say that. District 132, Mike Schofield and Chase West. District 133, that's Mano Delayla running unopposed. District 134. So District 134, the incumbent is Ann Johnson and her challenger is Audrey Douglas. So that's one of those Heights districts. It's the Heights, more central Harris County, central Houston, that area of the region. State District 135, running unopposed. That is, sorry, I lost my footing. Give me 1 second. State District 135, that's John Rosenthal, running unopposed. State Rep District 137, Jean Wu. It's your Southwest, West Side. Jean Wu and Lee Sharp. State Rep District 138, that's Lacey Hull and Stephanie Morales. State District 139, that's Charlene Ward Johnson. State District 140, that's Armando, Lucia Wale. They're both running unopposed, as well as State Representative District 141, which is Sophronia Thompson. And so that's more North Houston. So central to Harris County, but North Houston. State District 142, that is Harold Dutton. That is Northeast or Northeast Houston, or you can say Harris County. That's Harold Dutton. He's running unopposed. So you're seeing a pattern here, right? And districts where it's richly one party, you're going to see the candidates unopposed, whether it's District 133 or District 143, right? Anna Hernandez running unopposed. District 144, Marianne Perez running unopposed. You can see it in District 145, Christina Morales running unopposed. All right, but let's get into some of these races where they're not unopposed and they are contested. So State Rep District 146, that is a competition. The incumbent was beat during the primary. The incumbent lost her seat, and then I almost had a Freudian slip. She lost her seat, and then she changed parties. She quit the Democratic Party and flipped to the Republican Party after she lost her seat. Very interesting, very interesting. I won't even say her name. Howsoever, the Democrat for that seat who beat her is Lauren Ashley Simmons, and her challenger is Lance York. Her Republican challenger is Lance York, and the Democratic candidate is Lauren Ashley Simmons. That is going to be a fun race to watch, not because I think Lauren Ashley Simmons is going to lose. It's going to be fun to watch because of all the fallout, because she beat the incumbent back in March. And I just think that is hilarious to see someone have a total political tantrum. But it's not the first time. All right, moving right along. Representative for District 147. So 147 is basically south, like Third Ward, up and down Alameda, all the way into the Heights. This is the district that I live in, District 147. And the Republican challenger is Claudio Gutierrez, and the incumbent is Jolanda Jones. All right, so that's District 147. It is in the heart of Houston, very centrally located part of Houston, a very diverse, partially, let me put it this way, a partially diverse population, but it is a growing diverse, where it used to be more so a historically Black seat, or whether you say Black or African American, it has become more diverse. And again, the incumbent there is Jolanda Jones, and her challenger is Claudio Gutierrez. All right, next we have State District 148, Penny Morales Shaw and Kay Smith. We have Hubert Vo and Liddy Trong for State Rep District 149, that is West Side. We have District 150, Valerie Swanson and Maricela or MJ Jimenez. All right, let's move on to our courts, right? So we have the Court of Appeals justices, all right? Court of Appeals justices. We have, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 of these, if I'm not mistaken. No, 6, 8, 9. Got a lot of these. 10. All right. So we have about 10 seats on the Court of Appeals, but they're different districts. All right. So in the first Court of Appeals district, all right, You have Brendetta Scott and Jennifer Cahy. And the First Court of Appeals District Place 6, you have Andrew Johnson and Sarah Beth Lando. And First Court of Appeals District 7, you have Clint Morgan and Julie Countess. And First Court of Appeals District Place 8, you have Kristen Guiney and Richard Hightower. And I'm going to talk about what this office is, but I'm going to name everybody's name. So First Court of Appeals District Place 9, you have Susanna, who I don't even want to attempt her last name, Dokupil. Susanna, if you could tell me how to pronounce it, I'd be more than happy to. Versus Amber Boyd Cora. Then 14th Court of Appeals District Place 3, you have Chad Bridges and Velda Renita Faulkner. And then I think we have 2 more or 3 more. Justice 14th Court of Appeals Place 4, Tanya McLaughlin and Charles Spain. 14th Court of Appeals Place 5, Maritza Antu and Francis Berloy, because it's T is pronounced. And then you have 14th Court of Appeals District Place 6 is Katie Boatman and Megan Hassan. And 14th Court of Appeals District Place 8, Brad Hart and Margaret, who goes by Meg Poissant. All right. So what is the Court of Appeals? That is our intermediate court. So we have district court. So we talk about our statewide courts, right? So each part of the states is divided into districts. And so here in Harris County, we have a Court of Appeals, and we have our district courts, which is our trial courts. So whether it's a criminal trial or a civil trial, that's where you enter the courts, right? The trial. Above that, we have our appeals court, right? That's our intermediate court. So these are people running for the intermediate courts, those that I just named. Okay, I hope that helps. So let's say you, God forbid, you get hit by let me pick on somebody. I don't know. You get hit by a Walmart truck and you sue Walmart. Well, no, because that would be federal. You definitely want to go to federal court for that. Let's say you have a car accident. You just have a car accident. You don't get the ruling that you want in the district court. You appeal it to the intermediate court. The Court of Appeals will hear it. Or you get charged with something. You're found guilty. You want to appeal it. Your appeal, God forbid it's a capital crime, your appeal will be in the intermediate court. All right. So the district court, those are our trial courts. That's what we're going to go over next. We have several of these. You have the 11th Judicial District, and I'm not going to name all these people because unless I know them, I'm just going to try to go through them. You have because I got a lot more to go through. So just forgive me. You have the 61st District. So you have several district court judges up for either re-election or for election, right? So the importance of the district court judges is these are the people who will either be looking at criminal cases or civil cases, depending on where they fall, but they're where your trial takes place. They are the referee for where your trial will take place. That's the easiest way to put it. Now, there are some whose names I'm going to call because I am biased on this platform, because I can be, because it's my platform. It's no one else's platform. And this is why I do what I do. And I had to be reminded that today. All right. So congressional district. District Court judge for the 151st District, Judicial District, Erica Hughes, definitely endorsing all day long. Judge Hughes, re-elect Judge Hughes all day long. Just gonna call it how I see it. I don't need nobody to say, hey, I want you to meet this judge. None of that. Plus, she's running unopposed, but I just needed to say that it's her all day long. Same as with District Judge, the 339th Judicial District, T.I. Babel, all day long. Judge Bell, um, just want you to know, like, it is what it is. But I'm gonna move on. We have a lot of district court judge races. Many of them are challenged. They're not like the two that I just named, where they're running unopposed. These are races that are definitely being challenged, and we're going to actually have a special episode just for that, where I will talk to you about it. So just make sure you go into the judges, and we're going to do a special. Again, we're going to do a special episode just about the district judges, and I'll have guests on to talk about it. And I think it's very important to have people who are in these courts who know the ethics of the judges, know the temperament of the judges, the practices of the judges, how they manage their courts, their timeliness, how they respect people who come before them, what kind of work they're doing in the communities. I think all of that is important. And so we will have an episode just about those local, those judges who serve us locally here in Harris County. Let's jump on into it though, right? Because this is what I'm waiting on. All right. So I tell anybody this, and I say it all the time, the most important role in county government, the most, maybe not most important, but definitely one of the most powerful, is that of your district attorney. Here in Harris County, we have a district attorney race. In March, during the primary, our incumbent was defeated. Kim Ogg was defeated in March by Sean Tier, who actually had served as a prosecutor in the Harris County DA's office during Ogg's tenure as district attorney. So that says a lot for somebody to run against somebody that they work for. It says a lot. And then to beat them. Okay. So he is facing off with Dan Simmons, the Republican candidate. Sean Tier is the Democratic candidate. That is a race to watch here. I know people are like, this is Harris County. It's going to stay blue for DA. It might not, because prior to Kim Ogg being the district attorney, we had a Republican DA, right? And her name just escapes my mind. Every time I want to say it, it just runs right away from me. Nevertheless, this is a race to watch, but not just because of who's in it. It's a race to watch because of the power that the district attorney has. The DA determines what charges or if charges will be brought in all circumstances. And I think it's just very important to always pay attention to your DA's race. Like, it's super critical to your livelihood, for one, to pay attention to who your DA is. Very important. I will talk about judges on another episode. So after the DA's race, we have some county criminal court. We have a county criminal court race. We have probate, not case, race. I meant to say race, not case. We also have our county attorney's race. We have our county attorney's race. On our ballot, we have our sheriff's race on our ballot. And so let's talk about what these offices do. So the county attorney defends the county against lawsuits, but they also sue the county when necessary. When someone, an organization or someone or an entity or a corporation or a state actor, right, violates or causes harm against Harris County or a community in Harris County. Let's say someone spills something in Harris County. The county attorney is our advocate. Okay. And next we have the sheriff's race, which is interesting. Mike Knox, former Houston City councilman, challenging the incumbent Ed Gonzalez for sheriff. The sheriff is responsible for county law enforcement, but is also responsible for our county jail. Depending on who the sheriff is, different things can or cannot happen in your county jail. For instance, we have a polling location in our county jail because most people who are in county jail are not convicted of a felony and therefore they have the right to vote. Many of them are just there because they are awaiting their trial. They have the right to vote, but that also allows the deputies who work at the county jail to be able to vote while at work and not have to miss work or miss the opportunity to vote because they are always at work. There is actually a precinct there in our county jail, and I think that's where I'm not saying that's because of who the sheriff is, but I'm just telling you that if the sheriff don't want it there, it won't be there. All right, any sheriff. But another important thing to be mindful of when you talk about Harris County and the sheriff's office, be reminded that Harris County Jail is also the largest mental health facility in the county. All right, that's really important to keep in mind as well. Next, we have on our ballot our county tax assessor. So this is where you pay your property taxes. This is typically one may argue that this should be someone who's an actual CPA, someone who's professionally trained. May argue that. I'm not going to get in that debate, but this is a seat that you need to pay attention to. If you have questions about it, feel free to reach out to us. You have Steve Raddick, who is a long time elected official here in Harris County. I think he's at least been elected and elected official for at least 40 years, on and off over the course of 40 years. Most recently, he was a county commissioner. He's been a constable. He's held various seats in local politics, and then his challenger is or they're both, neither one of them are incumbents. The incumbent is retiring. Annette Ramirez is the challenger. She is a CPA. I didn't mention the CPA thing because of her, but I'm just saying she is a CPA. And so that is a race to watch because he's going to be running off name recognition because his name has been on the ballot so much in other capacities. That's going to work in his favor. But depending on her ground game and the way she gets information out there, I think she can fight back. This is a race I will certainly be watching. All right. County school trustee. So we have Harris County School Districts like on board. So we have trustee positions. We have 1, 2. So at large, position 3. We have position 4, precinct 3, and we have position 6, precinct 1, that are up for election. Only one of these is challenged, and that is position 3 at large. We have county commissioner races. We have precinct 1, precinct 3, and precinct. Okay, so just 1 and 3. So 1, the incumbent is Rodney Ellis, and his challenger is Jerry Vanderlyn. And 3, the incumbent is Tom Ramsey, and his challenger is Salim Malik. The role of the county commissioner is to oversee roads and bridges, funding, to set policies for the county. They do some hiring. They are our executive authority, so to speak, the county commissioners. They make up that body, that executive body for the county, and the way the county is governed. We all know that the county judge is like the CEO of the county, not on the ballot, but I just wanted to put that out there. So like the function of the county commissioners is the overall governance of county, of Harris County. And every county has county commissioners. It's 4 plus the county judge, which makes 5. All right. So justice of the peace, precinct 1, precinct 2, and precinct 3. Place 1 for all 3 are all running unopposed. Precinct 4, place 1. Precinct 5, place 1. No, precinct 4, place 1 is also running unopposed. Justice of the peace, precinct 5, place 1, is a challenge election. Justice of the peace, precinct 6 and precinct 7 are both unopposed races. All right. So the justice of the peace, they work with the constable. So you ever get a ticket from the constable, you go into a JP judge. Justice of the peace handles things such as evictions and small lawsuits between individuals. I mean, very small. They deal with a lot of landlord tenant and just issues around that, and they do some tickets as well. That's a small overview of them. Justice of the Peace Precinct 8, Place 1 is incumbent is being challenged. Holland Williamson is the incumbent. That is the Pasadena area. Carissa Grady is the challenger there. Constable Precinct 1 unopposed. The incumbent is running. Constable Precinct 2 unopposed. Constable Precinct 3, you have Eric Patino and Sherman Eagleton. Constable Precinct 4, you have Mark Herman, the incumbent, being challenged by Sam Hutchinson. Then you have Constable Precinct 5, Terry Albritton and Jerome Moore. And you have Constable Precinct 6, unopposed incumbent. You have Constable Precinct 7, unopposed incumbent, and Precinct 8, unopposed incumbent. All right. Then we have our Harris County Flood Control District election to approve a tax rate. We will cover this later. Not going to go into it tonight. It has been over an hour, and so I'm going to conclude this episode. Hopefully it was good and it was informative, but it's time to log off. Hopefully you learned something. We will follow up with additional episodes to cover the races. Again, we will have one about the judges. We'll have some guests on here to discuss further. Have a good night.